President Buhari warns Nigeria police on excessive use of force on Nigerians. Academic Staff Union of Universities at war with federal government over payroll system. In international news, U.S. House Democrats have decided to put Impeachment Inquiry to a House vote. And in sport, ICPC arrests Secretary General of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria over alleged $130,000 fraud.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has handed down to the police President Muhammadu Buhari's strong warnings not to harass or intimidate young, innocent Nigerians in the bid to arrest internet fraudsters, also known as Yahoo Boys. In a keynote address delivered by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the opening ceremony of the conference and retreat for senior police officers on Monday in Lagos, Buhari said the police force is the closest to the grassroots and needs to be friendlier in its interactions. Buhari says the Nigerian police must look beyond arresting young men and women just because they look successful and are carrying laptops. The police was also cautioned against extrajudicial killings and injuries, misuse of weapons, and excessive use of force by some members of the force. The government has confirmed nearly 400,000 public servants have so far been enrolled on the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System. Acting Head of Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, said when she appeared before the House Committee on Public Service Matters to defend her office's 2020 budget proposal. Yemieson says the federal government is working to enroll all public servants on the IPPIS. President Muhammadu Buhari has earlier directed non-payment of worker salaries in all ministries, departments and agencies yet to enroll in the Integrated Personal Payroll Information System, effective from Thursday. Acting Head of Service says IPPIS is a very key tool that has helped the government eliminate ghost workers and address the challenges of delay in payment of salaries by some agencies. She urged civil service to embrace change and key into it the ongoing reforms in the public service designed to ensure efficient and effective service delivery to Nigeria. Meanwhile, in a swift reaction, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has threatened no pay, no work if the federal government goes ahead with its threats not to pay anyone not registered on the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information System by Thursday. ASUU and federal government have been at loggerheads over the compulsory migration of lecturers to the platform by the end of the month. ASUU leaders from the Southwest described the IPPIS as a one-size-fits-all approach tainted with corrupt tendencies. Coordinator of the Southwest, Professor Adejumo, berated the Accountant General of the Federation for alleging that ASUU was encouraging corruption by its opposition to the IPPIS. ASUU says the platform negated the law on university autonomy. In other news, Nigeria's 36 governors say the federal government cannot decide for them on the implementation of the new minimum wage. The governors are insisting the states will not pay beyond its capabilities. The governors say in their final conclusion that the capacity of the states will determine the payment of the new salary. Ekiti State Governor and Chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, reviews another meeting would hold between the governors and the Nigeria Labour Congress at the state level to agree on the issue because, according to him, Federal Executive Council does not determine what happens in the state. 200 inmates from the medium federal correctional centers kept in Kogi State as heavy downpour ravaged the entire community of Kotom Cafe. Floods also caused the collapse of part of the prison. Acting Chief Imam of Kotom Cafe Central Mosque Saidu Suleiman Nuhu confirmed about 100 of the inmates who escaped have been rearrested by security agents. Meanwhile, in Adamawa State, authorities have opened relief camps to accommodate residents displaced by flood last weekend. The Adamawa State Emergency Management Agency and its federal counterparts, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, said the effects of the flood were more devastating than first thought. Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, AMCOM's Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer Ahmed Kuru has called on the Nigerian government to convert Arik Air into a national carrier. Kuru said AMCOM has retrieved Arik from the brink of collapse and restructured, positioned it on the path of growth and profitability. He advised the government to take advantage of this new development of the airline towards setting up a national carrier rather than trying to set up a new airline brand from the scratch. The AMCON boss added that a new airline will cost the federal government a fortune, especially in the face of the nation's tight budget. Kuru also called on the 9th National Assembly to reform the sector, which would help local airlines grow and attract many other investors that are eyeing Nigeria's huge aviation business opportunities. Coming up, African stories. International Committee of the Red Cross says food insecurity in Zambia could affect 2.3 million people. And later, international news. U.S. House Democrats have decided to put impeachment inquiry to a House vote.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. South Africa has imposed emergency measures, including rationing, to save low water supplies following below average rainfall and an abnormally hot, dry summer and a spike in usage. South Africa's 3 out of 9 provinces are officially experiencing a water crisis caused by higher than expected temperatures and lack of rains. Authorities have urged South Africans to use water for drinking purposes amid water crises that have seen dams, reservoirs and taps run dry. Officials estimate the average person in the financial hub, Gauteng, consumes almost double the global average. South African government is hoping that increased awareness around the current water crisis will lead people to change their behavior. Minister of Water Affairs, Lindiwe Zulu, says there is a need to prevent a looming disaster. She added that while the situation is serious, there is no need to panic. The International Committee of the Red Cross and Zambia Red Cross say low rainfall and waterlogging have destroyed many crops in Zambia. The humanitarian groups are now appealing for $3.5 million in donation to avert what they call a catastrophic food insecurity that could affect 2.3 million people. Zambia Red Cross's head, Keitano Chungo, says people and animals, both livestock and wildlife, are having to use the same water point because of lack of drinking water caused by drought. The ICRC says in a statement, food relief have been provided over the past few months, but says more help is needed. Save the Children charity has warned that an estimated 140,000 Somalians, half of them children, in the Hirian region who were forced to flee rising flood waters to higher grounds, are in desperate need of clean water, food, temporary latrines and shelter.
A further 300,000 persons, half of them children, in Beledweyne town are being forced to relocate as the Shebele water has reached its banks. Abdulaziz Bilo has the details.
Marian Mahmoud is building a makeshift structure on the outskirts of Beledweyne. She is among thousands who have fled flooding in one of the biggest towns in central Somalia. Shebele River has broken its banks, overflowing into the city. Water levels have risen due to heavy rains experienced in most parts of the country. Homes, local government headquarters, schools, hospitals and business centers have been closed. Locals have been forced to move to higher grounds for their own safety. Residents say they are in desperate need of clean water, food, temporary latrines and shelter.
I moved here with my family due to the floods. We were unable to salvage our properties. Most of it was submerged due to the flooding inside the city. We are now living in makeshift structures and we don't have access to clean water or toilets.
Shebele River has broken its banks and water flooded Beledweyne city. We are now displaced in this camp known as El Jale. Most of my neighbors also fled to this place. Living in the city became impossible.
Local authorities say 4 children have lost their lives since the flooding began last week.
3 neighborhoods have been hit the worst by the floods. Up to 55,000 people have fled from the city and we expect the number to rise. The Shebele River originates from Ethiopia and we have received reports that water level has risen and is flowing our way. We anticipate more internally displaced persons and we call for immediate assistance to alleviate the suffering of these vulnerable families.
The government has appointed a ministerial committee to coordinate relief efforts in the region, after coming under sharp criticism for failing to tackle recurrent flooding in that part of the country.
The committee will work with local administrations in flood-affected regions. My administration's priority in the next few days will be to coordinate relief efforts in these areas. I appeal to the international community to channel all humanitarian support towards those affected.
Floods have hit the central Somali town of Beledweyne for the second time in less than 2 years. Aid agencies estimate that more than 140,000 people, including 70,000 children, have been forced to flee rising floodwaters in the region, with that number expected to rise to 300,000 in the coming days.
When we return, international news. U.S. House Democrats have decided to put impeachment inquiry to a House vote. And later, sports. ICPC arrests Secretary General of AFN over alleged fraud. Welcome back. This is ANN News and news from around the world. Democratic leaders in the U.S. House of Representatives have announced on Monday plans to take their first formal vote on Thursday in the impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. This ushers in a new phase as they prepare to go public with their investigation into the president's dealings with Ukraine. A decorated Iraq war veteran and White House national security official plans to tell House impeachment investigators on Tuesday that he heard Mr. Trump appeal to Ukraine's president to investigate one of his leading political rivals. A request that so concerned the aide that he reported it to a superior. In all this, more than $13.5 million have been invested in trying to change public opinion on impeachment since the inquiry was announced. In the escalating war, the messaging that will most likely dominate the early stages of next year's presidential election is coming into focus. The unknown timeline of an impeachment trial could further complicate the already fraught process of preventing another government shutdown. Prime Minister Boris Johnson of Britain has now secured Parliament's backing for a December general election. A December snap poll is all but confirmed. Opposition parties have supported the Prime Minister's motion. Jeremy Corbyn finally backed the move on Tuesday, but parties must still agree on the exact date. The Prime Minister says he will drop his Brexit deal for now in exchange for an early election. European leaders had granted Britain a 3-month Brexit delay on Monday, extending the Brexit deal into a 4th year.
The Prime Minister's spokesman, James Clark, says Johnson is open to dates other than December the 9th for a general election. It says Johnson does not consider a poll on December the 9th as logistically possible. That means December the 10th or 11th could emerge as the date for a pre-Christmas election, rather than the December 12th votes proposed by the Prime Minister. The pound reversed an earlier decline as traders judged a vote in Parliament on an early election vote was likely to pass with the Labour Party's backing. The currency gained as much as 0.1% to $1 before paring gains. Firefighters in the western U.S. state of California battled a new blaze on Monday that broke out near the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. This is the latest in a series of fires burning across the state. The fire on the west side of Los Angeles has grown to more than 250 acres since ignited before dawn on Monday and has burned down at least 8 homes. The area is where some of the city's most expensive houses are located. The fire has forced thousands to evacuate. Basketball star LeBron James, who lives in the area, said he has evacuated with his family, but had difficulties finding a nearby hotel with vacancies. The fire burned close to a major highway on Monday, and commuters posted pictures on social media showing hills around the road on flames. Fire officials are monitoring the threat of low humidity and high winds over the next few days that will make firefighting efforts more difficult. Officials at the Getty Museum said the fire has not come close to the building, which is made of thick stone walls to protect it from flames. Vietnamese people are asking questions today why any citizen of this prospering nation would go abroad to work. Vietnam has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, high levels of optimism in public opinion surveys, and good relations with its old wartime enemies, the United States and France. So locals were caught off guard by the high-profile death in excess UK. They say this suggests some thoughts they could find more opportunities abroad than at home. British police found 39 persons dead in a truck last week, prompting fears that the deceased were the victims of human trafficking. Some here are surprised that people would spend tens of thousands of dollars, equivalent to hundreds of millions of Vietnam dong, to leave, even though Vietnam has a fast-growing economy that has lifted many out of poverty. One local noted that such money could be used to find work domestically. Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, Nigerian Anti-Graft Agency Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, ICPC, has arrested the Secretary General of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, Amechi Akawu, for allegedly misappropriating $130,000. The ICPC spokesperson, Rashidat Okodowa, says the cash belonged to the International Association of Athletics Federation. The ICPC also said its findings revealed that the accused acted without the AFN board, got several approvals for the release of the money through a series of letters to the then Minister of Youth and Sports, Solomon Dalong. AFN is yet to refund the excess funds. The Niger Football Federation has finally settled for the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo, Akwa Ibom capital, to hold the first leg qualifying match between the Super Eagles and their Beninese counterparts next month. Officials say the choice of Uyo Evertstans would be a welcome development to the players who were not happy with the condition of the pitch playing in Asaba. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.